110 fights, I've never actually been knocked out in a fight.
When I started coaching you, I think we went like 12 and 0 or 14 and 0 in a row. We were on fire, but it was because I sat you down and we started going over game plans. We watched fight film.
Now it's like I'm going into fights with game plans. Going with a game plan, we go from cruising to having dominating performances.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's fought out of the red corner, he's fought out of the blue corner, and today he fights out of the ultimate man corner. He comes to us with 110 amateur bouts, and he's about to turn professional. We've got a guest on the show who's the 2011 provincial champion, the 2013, 14, and 15 Golden Gloves champion, WBC youth boxing champion of 14 and 15, 2022 Ontario bronze medal, and the 2023 Quebec Open silver medalist. About to turn pro. Welcome to the show, Dylan, the Golden Boy, Taylor.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
We got to go way back. One thing Aaron and I love to do is tell our story, take it back to the beginning, because everybody out there who's listening, we want to know, where did it all start? What got you into the sport? Why did you choose boxing over hockey or football or anything else that's out there? So we're going to go right back to the very beginning, the earliest beginnings. So tell us, how old were you when you first started, and why did you get started in this crazy sport of boxing?
The hospital was right next to the boxing club. So like as soon as I was born, like I went to the boxing club before I even went home type thing. And it was one of those, I just grew up in the gym, but they never forced me to fight. They never like pushed it on me or anything. And I never really had much interest. That like I was always like around. I was always like in the gym growing up and stuff. And like I knew at some point I'd probably compete. Wasn't too sure when. Like after school, I was always at the gym with my grandpa. That's just been my whole life growing up. And my mom started competing in 2008 and all that. And I kind of gained a bit more of an interest there. I was still young. Like I was only like 10, I think, when she competed, which I know a lot of kids start then, but I was like chubbier. I was more of the hockey baseball route kind of growing up and stuff like that. So that's kind of more where my interest was in sports. And
Cool.
then it was April 2010, I went in and started training a little bit. And by June, I had my first fight. And it's been like, it was one because like for me, like I knew all the basics from like I had the basics down and everything from when I was like 3 years old. As you
Right.
can see, like I had that. There's that one picture of me in the ring with the gloves, the headgear, and everything on. Like I've been in the gym my whole life, so like I was able to compete faster than the average beginner just because of all like the just basic knowledge I had. It was kind of rocky at first. I lost a decent amount and out and stuff like that, but then all of a sudden, like I got to a point where I was beating everyone, and
Right.
but I came from a small organization, OBA, provincials at the time. There'd maybe be like 50, 60, 70 people maybe like registered. So it was like I fought everyone in the organization. Like I'd take fights like the heaviest I fought was 175 pounds. Right. And like I'm turning pro at 147. A lot of ups and downs. And when I got on the ships, I was doing month on, month off. Like once I got steady, I was doing 28 days on, 28 days off. So I'd be on a ship in the middle of the lake, going city to city, and I get off. And a lot of times I'd go fight in 10 days. At that point, I was just doing it for the fun of the sport. I'd go into a 3 day tournament 10 days later, fighting all these people that have been training for the specific tournament for 3 months, and I'm been training for 10 days. It mentally got hard for a bit. This isn't a sport where you can just play with, right? Like I was like lucky that I've been part of the sport my whole life where I could get through and like know how to get through and cruise my way to the decision just for the fun of the sport. Like it's not something I go recommend to someone, hey, do this for fun. Right? You gotta be 100% into it.
So yeah, you're saying you could do it for the love of the sport, but if you don't really have a goal, you're just kind of on cruise control.
I got on ships when I was 19, 20 years old, right? We'd be gone working for like 28 days at a time, knowing that there's a tournament and I'm like stuck on a ship. It really sucked because I'd really want to be at the tournament. And like that weekend, it's like the whole weekend I'm like walking around like depressed. All I want to do is fight. Like I'd have a supervisor and my captain and stuff like that. Like I was training for provincials. At the time, I was supposed to get off on the Wednesday and provincials started Thursday. So I was about 158. I was cutting to 141. So
Okay.
oh,
Damn.
I had like a pretty decent weight cut to boot, and like I got it down. Like when I got off the ship, I was 150 pounds. And with like I had a treadmill, elliptical, a handful of weights, a bike, and a heavy bag. Like that's what I'd deal with on the ship and stuff like that. Like we'd be sailing across the lake at night, and I'd be hitting the bag. But I wasn't as serious with it. I wanted to be, right? But it's hard when you're in that state of mind. Like it's literally two different lives. So the silver gloves, it was October that year. So I got off in March and I managed to take 2 weeks off, so I had 5 weeks until the a tournament. And if you won that, you got to go to the Canadian Olympic qualifiers. I got a full like 5 week training camp. I was like, okay, I'm set. I'm gonna like this is my year and stuff. But then they switched it. They switched the weight class from 64 to 63.5 kg, and that's only half a kilo, but when like you're like sucking everything out of you and stuff, and I'm making 141, like I'm making it, I have it down, but then they take that extra like half kilo. That killed me, man. Like I weighed in 137 pounds that day. Mentally, I was done there. I was like, okay, well, I'm a sailor now. This is my career. Like I can't do this boxing part-time stuff. Like it's literally like anytime I try to make it happen, it just became more of a letdown. Took a break there. I got pretty fat, gained the weight. Like I went from an extra small to a large in a matter of like 2 months.
Oh,
Like just
wow.
I put the weight on, just didn't really care anymore, right? Like, and that's not a great mindset to have, but it was just so mentally exhausting, and I was like, I can't do this life anymore. Over COVID, I hit 195 pounds.
No way.
It was kind of a running joke. Can I hit 200? But I was just like, nah, nah, let's time to start bringing it down. And trust me, man, it was terrible.
What's your weight? What's your fighting weight right now?
I'm gonna be fighting 147 right now.
Damn, all the way up from 195 down to 147 again. That's crazy, bro.
But like my walk around now, like I'm walking around like I was 162 this morning. So like to do 8 weeks and all that 147, that's nothing. I could do that in a day.
What do
And
Yeah.
you
it's
tell me
hard
a little
because
bit
like
more about your weight cuts? What do you do for your weight cuts? Is it just like sauna, Epsom salt bath? You said like water load.
Like I walk around 160 pounds. I normally like a club show, I'll fight 155, 156. So like I'll sweat out 5 pounds and like I'll just have an Epsom salt bath, sweat out 5 pounds and go to weigh-in. And
Little
like
5 pound weight cuts. That's nothing.
no,
I thought you
like
were.
4 pound, like just sweat out quick and stuff like that. Like whatever, like that's not too bad. For me, it's tournaments that I struggle with. Like it's the doing 3 days back to back to back. It really depends on what I'm walking around at. Last year, I was walking around anywhere between 152 and 156. So making 147 for amateurs was like easy for tournaments and stuff, right? And I'd still do that now as a pro because you only have to make it for the one day.
Mhm.
But to do that 3 or 4 days in a row, that's where that gets hard. I fought at Brampton Cup and I was walking around 152, 153 pounds, and I fought at 156. That was
Oh,
the first tournament in 5, 6 years that I won. And the difference was is that I didn't cut weight.
you were actually
Now,
healthier, heavier.
but I was small compared to everyone else. It was hard.
Yeah, there's
But
something to
How's
be
the
said about the mental resilience of a fighter. I think Aaron's
yeah,
got an MMA background. My background's boxing, and obviously Dylan, you're, a boxing background. And the amount of, your story talking us and walking us through the struggles, there's mental and
I
emotional, right? There's a lot to it.
February, found out I was gonna fight in April, and I mean like from February to April, man, I had one date in mind, one person in mind, and I went out and I had probably the best performance I could have. Like it's
Mhm.
hard because I see like you asked me like do I calorie count, portion size? It's kind of hard to like maintain both. I do a lot of shift work. I shift days, nights, and afternoons every 2 weeks. So it's like to kind of properly get myself on a normal like eating. Like I tend to balloon up sometimes if like kind of like I'll go a little overboard a bit after fights and stuff like that. Where because like I'll just like be so strict
Mhm.
where it's like as soon as it's done, it's like okay, like that's like a little reward. I want to eat this, and like that's something I need to get out of. I know that. I know I
Mhm.
need to like do better with that, and especially like I don't want to be having these fights anymore where it's like a fight to beat the scale before the actual fight.
I like what you said there, a fight to beat the scale before you actually have your opponent in the ring. That's a cool analogy because I think a lot of people listening to the podcast are trying to lose weight. They're dudes out there who've been inactive or they want to lose weight and they're having a bigger fight against the scale and their worries about that. And we have to realize that the sport is demanding a weight class, but in real life, they're not really demanding a weight class. Normal everyday life, you're not getting paid to compete, and even in amateur sport, you're not getting paid to compete. But you're obviously trying to play to win in sport. Now you're about to turn professional, where there's going to be money on the line, and that's like people getting paid to lose the weight and be in their weight class. So it's going to mean a lot more for you to make weight. But Aaron was asking about the how do you make that cut? Because I think a lot of our listeners want to know how do I get the weight off, but also they have to understand that you're doing it as an athlete in a specific sport. You're not doing it in the healthiest and most sustainable way, which you're saying, obviously, I know I need to fix. That's not good. I shouldn't be looking at a refeed as a reward to all the struggle and weight cut I've done. Aaron, you've probably made some savage weight cuts too, right? Using a lot of water cut.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically all it was. You know, luckily
What's
I
the
usually,
biggest you've done?
oh, I was like 190 to one to welterweight at like 170, so like 20 pounds. You know,
Yeah.
that was over the course of, you know, I had several weeks to do it, so it was not that bad. I probably last minute I didn't really like to cut more than about probably like 8 to 10 max without
Mhm.
feeling really depleted.
Right. And Dylan talked about a savage cut. When you cut too much, Dylan, you felt weak. You were tired. You know, your mind's not even in the game. That type of cut's really hard on the body. And we've seen a lot of UFC fighters and things too, as we watch a lot of fights together here. You see that they don't perform their best when they've made such a drastic cut. They're just not there. Even though their body might make weight, they're physically empty, right? Mentally, emotionally, the whole works. So,
When I like weight cut, I just like down the water. Cause like I'll like weigh myself 170 at night and I'm 158 in the morning. But literally, I'm telling you, water makes a difference. And I never realized that until like it was a little later in my career. It's like, wow, this is like magic almost. Like it's like like it's like
yeah.
amazing. Like I've gone to a different extreme where like I was doing like water loading where I'd take like 6 liters in so many days and stuff like that. Or like the last one when I was doing a weight cut, I was taking in 10 to 12 a day. And
Hmm.
it's like and I mean like you're like forcing it down.
Hmm.
And but it comes off, it helps. And it like makes it easier because it helps you like sweat off the extra weight and all that. And obviously there's like the eating healthy, being like smart that way and all that. But I mean like water is a big like it's magic. I'm telling you. Like
It's true. We need water to survive. You'll die without water, right? You can go days without food, but without water, it's a very short lifespan. Also, when we're talking about weight cutting like that, and again, our listeners are going, okay, well, should I just start drinking 6 to 12 liters of water? Is that going to
no.
flush me out? We got to make sure that we send the message out there too that when your coaches were taking you through this, Dylan, were you using electrolytes and sodium and things like that to replenish minerals? Wow, because again, we know there's such a thing as hyponatremia, which is too much water in the system can flush out all of your minerals and leave you pretty weak and very unhealthy. Were you using any kind of electrolytes or amino acid, like any kind of rebalancing?
Honestly, no.
Okay.
No, honestly, I've kind of just gone straight. Like I don't really deal with supplements or any electrolyte, and I know I should. I should kind of, but I've just honestly never have.
Right.
And it's something I'm definitely gonna look into more.
Aaron, did you want to add anything to that water cut thing that we were talking about there? Any information or any questions for Dylan on the water part of it?
Yeah, totally. Well, I would definitely say add some electrolytes into the mix because that'll be a game changer. They're really important just for overall energy production.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that'll help a lot. But I'm a little bit more curious about like the water loading because I never really did a water loading phase before the cut. So give me like a hypothetical protocol. Like say you have a fight coming up in a few days. Like how many days would you water load, and then when would you cut that water out?
Everyone's got like a different method to it, right? Like I just started one where this like someone told me like, okay, he starts at like 12 liters and then 12 bring and does it like kind of like every day, like 12, 10, 9, 8, 7, like brings it all the way down and then does like a fast. I was doing before I was taking in 6 liters for 4 days and then I would do a 24-hour fast and just no food. Like, so like it would be 24 hours from when I'd weigh in. So if I'm fighting Friday, I start on Sunday and I would drink however many, like 6 liters every single, like every day, every 24 hours. So like weigh-ins would be at 7 o'clock. So like I would wake up Thursday morning, I would have like have my last bit of water, eat something, but then I would do a 24-hour fast. So like you're flushing out your system and then you add in a bit of Epsom salt to sauna, but like that's kind of like last resort. Like for like 147, like I want to be like 150, 152. So if I do have to go do like a little bit of a sauna cut or something, a water cut, I only want to do a couple pounds. I don't want to have to worry about 5 to 8 pounds anymore. You do it properly, it can be really easy. If you cheat yourself, you're struggling. I cheated 2 times I had a cheat meal 2 times, and that like made like my weight cut 10 times harder. And I think that's what it was because that's the only thing different I did. You don't stay on track and all that. You pay for it in the long run. And I've definitely had my fair share of times I've paid for fights that I've lost. All been like a mental thing. You're asking me about the mentality part. Like I've lost about 10 of them. And I'm not gonna lie, all 10 of those I lost before the fight even started. I mentally wasn't into it that day, whether I woke up, just wasn't feeling it. You know what it's like. You've been there. How many fights did you have? Like 80,
Yep, just
87
shy of
fights? Like,
100. Yep.
right? Like you get there and there's some days that you're just not feeling it. And it's just like it sucks.
Mhm.
And it's kind of just the realization of the sport, right? You just kind of you have your off days.
There was something you said earlier in there, and I loved it. It was a great soundbite. We always look for those little clips and highlights, and it was kind of you were talking about the consistency part, and you're like, if you keep cheating yourself, you're going to pay for it in the long run. That was a great clip there. And so your pro debut isn't till March now.
Well, it's like been like 3 different dates in the last week.
Okay.
So, but it's just been the waiting game, right? Like
Hmm.
February, May, September, November, February, now
Yeah.
March, right? So
Yeah.
Don't you
it's
love it
been
when
a
they switch things up on you and make changes? Have you ever had like a major like fight opponent change where you thought you were going to fight this one guy in the last minute? They're like, oh no, you're fighting this
yep.
guy.
November. November, I was supposed to fight the Canadian champ. Yeah, November 4th, I was supposed to fight him, and on the day before, he pulled out due to like a back injury or some type of injury or something like that. And they offered me a guy, so he's the champ at 147, and they offered me a guy who was 165. So me and him, we're no, but we're fighting like I was about 158, like we're fighting like at like 155, 156, whatever, right? Like I go from fighting a guy who's a champ at this weight class and I'm fighting a guy who's a provincial champ at 165. And I ended up doing it. And it was actually one of my best boxing performances that I've had. And I was kind of like, I was pretty nervous about it, honestly. Like, I was like, last time I gave up, like, I took a fight on short notice. The guy went up and fought a guy that was 165. Didn't go very well for me. Skill wise, I was way better than the guy. It was a bad day mentally and just kind of had a bunch of things on the outside happen. But it was just,
Do you have like a type of fighter that's the hardest, presents the most challenge for you, like the short, stocky guys, or the long, lanky guys, or the guys really good at body shots, or like a particular style that gives you troubles?
definitely like the pressure brawler type styles,
Yeah,
like kind of like the
Aaron.
shorter style. Like it's hard, right? Like I don't really,
the ones that
I
always
could
keep have you going backwards, kind of fighting on your heels, like that
which
type.
yeah, like that's not like terrible. Like I've had like a lot of success against some of those fighters, but there's it honestly depends, man. It depends. If I've had a shit weight cut and I fight one of those guys, I might as well just throw in the towel before I get there. Like honestly, like I fought a guy, Golden Gloves one year. I did 11-pound weight cut that day. But I fight this like short, little, stocky guy who's just a very pressure brawler type style, and he just beat me up for 3 rounds. Like I went the decision, whatever, but it was just like skill wise, like I had nothing. I had no legs and stuff like that, and like you're just getting beat up. Like why am I in here? What's fun about this? Like, and that's when you kind of get to the point, like, man, this is when like, okay, like you can only have fun with it so long.
A lot of parents who are, holding their kids back from getting into the sport. A lot of people who are concerned that boxing is this savage and barbaric head injury trauma sport. MMA is probably getting the same reputation, if not worse, right? What would you say to parents who are considering, okay, well, maybe I'd let my kid go in if I could hear something good about the sport? We're talking about knockout, but it's not really the most common thing, is it? Like, how many knockouts have you had? How many times have you been knocked out? And how many times do you see knockouts?
Well, I've in 110 fights, I've never actually been knocked out in a fight. Like, there's been a couple times I've taken a body shot, taken a knee and stuff, but not always get up and finish the fight. And it's all monitored, I find. Like, it's like your kid, you take your kid, he's gonna be like your beginner kid, and he's going to be fighting people his size, his weight, his age. He's not going to be going in with people that are like 10 years older than like you put your kid that's like 14 in that's 120 pounds. He's not going to be. fighting someone that's 25 years old, 130, 150 pounds. Like it's all goes by size, experience, and stuff like that.
It's regulated, and the rules and the framework you
Yeah,
put in, like
like
weight
it's
class experience, they frame it well so you're in an equal match is what you're I think what you're trying to say.
exactly, yeah. Like it's not like you're just going to throw your kid in with like whoever. Like, and there is that head trauma, yes. But like there's so much cushion. You got the headgear and the gloves are so cushiony and stuff like that. Like it's really like it's not that bad. You're gonna throw your kid into football or lacrosse and stuff like that. I think that's way more brain damage and all that. Like your kids are literally running with hard helmets into each other. Or you could teach them how to block a punch and like hardly take any damage. When do they start body checking in hockey?
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah,
Like
certain
13
age,
years
right?
old, 13 years old. How many kids, like how many times do you see? Like it doesn't happen very often, but a body check leads into someone getting off on a stretcher. Like
Right.
it's
And
a big,
then
like it's,
yeah, massive concussions, right? In
yeah, like
sport. In hockey, you see that often, and then they hit the shoulder check, and then they hit the ice. There's a couple impacts. You mentioned
base,
something there about the sport of boxing and how you learn to protect yourself. You learn to brace and to
yeah.
defend against a punch. Like it's an expected precaution. Like you're actually training to defend yourself. So not only is it good for self-defense purposes, obviously, it's handy for that, but you also learn to how to cradle the punches and kind of absorb them better than just taking them the way that the people watching see it, right? They think that all three of us who've been in the sport of boxing, I've had almost 100 fights. Aaron in MMA has taken elbows and kicks, and Dylan, you've had over 100 fights now in the amateur sport. We should all be brain dead according to right the expectations of the people watching the sport. You talked about sometimes when you fight, you kind of beat yourself before you got in there. At the early levels, that's probably not much of a factor because hey, you're new. It's like you're expected to be second guessing yourself. But now you're at this 100 fight experience level. The pressure is much higher now for you to know your shit and to be on top of your game. And now you're about to go pro, and you're saying to yourself, is it still possible for me to get in my own head and talk myself to a point where like I don't know if I deserve to be pro? Am I going to make mistakes? Like how do you beat that devil on your shoulder that might be there trying to get in there now at a level where it really makes a difference? You don't want to beat yourself going in there. So tell me a little bit more about that. Dive into like where that devil's showed up before and how he's going to be conquered this time at a pro level.
There is one person in Ontario that he keeps showing up for some reason. I do not know why. I fought him 3 times this year and I lost all 3 times. Uh, but like honestly, like all 3 times, like 2 out of 3 times, like I woke up and I was not there that day. So
Were you telling yourself in advance this
yeah, I
guy's
was
too
telling
good
my
for me?
yeah, yeah. Like I knew like I thought that I was gonna lose regardless and stuff like that. And then when I got in there, we were moving around and stuff like that, and he was winning the exchanges. I was like, this is a winnable fight. Like, why am I like? But I wasn't. My body wasn't responding the way I wanted to. Whatever. It's just one of those ones. Like he's got my number.
Aaron, have you had a nemesis in your training experience or in your career as well? I know I did. I had a guy that I literally lost to at the provincials every year for like 3 years in a row. I was like, this dude just has my number too. I know that story. Have you had it too, Aaron?
Oh yeah, yeah. Jake the Snake was his name, and he was just always just levels above me, dude. Like I could give him a little run for his money sometimes. This was just in relation to jujitsu. He was like my jujitsu competitor,
Yeah.
but just a total stud, and yeah, just always one step ahead, and yeah, next level, dude. Pissed me off, but it made me so much better because I just my whole drive home. I would just like nurse my wounds and just like rehearse in my head. Okay, how am I gonna beat this guy next time? How am I gonna get him?
Yeah. Yeah. Trying to think of that game plan. And game plans impact in every sport. I think having a strategy and a game plan. We talked about certain style of fighters. You got to have a certain style to overcome, a certain style.
But now it's like I'm going into fights with game plans. Going with a game plan, we go from cruising to having dominating performances. That's like
Uh,
one thing that like made a difference. The first time I actually game planned and started prepping is when me and you were together. Like
right.
honestly, like and that's like was the first time I noticed a difference in my fight game that like game planning is a big difference is like
Absolutely.
and like
When I started coaching you, I think we went like 12-0 or 14-0 in a row. We were on fire, but it was because I sat you down and we started going over game plans. We watched fight film. We
we meet
started
at Tim
studying.
Hortons.
Yeah,
We would meet at
we'd sit. at local coffee shop, and we'd pull up a laptop and we would watch the opponent, knowing who's coming. We'd study it, and I would set up a game plan. And this is where Aaron and I come in as coaches too. We're constantly telling people fitness and health is the same. You have a coach with a game plan, it makes the journey so much easier. And like you said, Dylan, you can go through a cruising through to get a result, or you can have a dominating performance. That's a big difference when you have a game plan, right? If you're interested in working with Aaron and I, and you want to gain some information and experience from us, then always reach out in the best way that you can. And that is going to be to get involved in the forum. It's the lowest cost way to do it. You get a chance to mastermind with the entire group of men like yourself who are in it to win it, of like-minded individuals who are going to be in there, where Aaron and I can watch your form. We can motivate you. We have a leaderboard you can climb based on your workouts and performances. You actually get access to courses in there for free as part of your membership. There's always going to be more value, and every program we roll out, you're going to have first access to. So we take the questions and the topics for our podcast right from the forum. Gentlemen, there's no better place to be. If I wanted to get involved, this is where I would start. Get into the Ultimate Man Forum, and we will see you on the inside. And you had never even scored a knockdown. I remember we were talking about trying to implement a power strategy so you could actually get your first exciting knockdown. How cool did that feel when we learned how to strategize and have a game plan to actually score a knockdown?
Yeah, we got the knockdown, and then kind of the rest of the game plan went out the window.
The excitement, right? The excitement.
Remember that? I was like, oh my goodness! I finally get I could knock people down. All of a sudden, I try to go take his head off in the third round, and I was made the fight a lot harder than it was. But
That's it. Yeah. I always had that belief, and I think that's important. We always have our, we doubt ourselves. And that's one of the reason I asked you that question about that devil on the shoulder, because you got to get back to that framework of I have a game plan and I have belief in myself and my abilities. This guy that you're talking about who's shown up and the little devil's there 3 times in a row with this guy, you're at the level though. You're there. You're fighting this guy for a reason.
you can't compete at a high level off 4 hours of sleep. That's one thing. You definitely need your sleep too, right? That's was a big factor. I found that just my body was not responding the way I wanted to. I just wasn't there.
That's that's a really good point too. Aaron and I are talking about setting goals for people health wise. Sleep for dudes who are listening to this podcast right now, men out there, your sleep is your hormone reset. It's your testosterone. And literally, you're going to get your biggest results from sleep and hydration. And Dylan's talked massively about hydration today with the water cuts and things, but now he's talking about sleep. So if you're just tuning in here or you've been listening all this way through, sleep is critical. How many hours of sleep are you getting, Dylan, before a fight?
It really depends, honestly, where the fight is, what the pressure of it, I guess, too. If it's just a normal fight, my day to day, if I'm fighting, it's just me and you could be having this conversation, and I could be leaving in an hour to go to weigh-ins, and you wouldn't even think I'm fighting.
Right.
That's I've people see me I'm just relaxed, right?
Mhm.
So I don't really think too I don't let the pressure of fights or anything get to me. So then when they get to me and that guy's on my shoulder, that's when I my one coach sees it and just why are you getting in your head right now? You can see it on my face. And it's I get all of a sudden I don't know if it's wide-eyed or something, or my face just goes pale or something, but normal most of the time I'll be sitting there joking around, I'm literally joking around right before calling me into the ring half. I'd rather go and fight these tougher competitions. I fight better against better opponents,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
if I fight someone who is not at the level that I should be competing or at or something, sometimes I'll go down to that level not even meaning to, and then my coach has to snap it out of me in between fights. You're better than this. Why are you doing? I don't even realize. 13 years in, and I'm still trying to figure out the mental aspect of stuff.
You got into the sport super early too. Your family lineage is boxing. You were born into it. You were talking about that. And then we talked about really not having any pressure not to do the sport. The pressure on you was to do the sport. You early on, you were told get your ass in the gym and train, right? Where a lot of parents we will push people into your kid's going to play piano. We're going to teach them, and you do it to the point where they don't enjoy it. And you've talked a lot during this episode here about when you enjoy it, you're at your best. And when you're not enjoying it, you're just cruise control. You're not getting the result. You're not having a game plan. You're not even focused. You're not taking it seriously. But now, what's the difference? You go into all these years, 100 fights at amateur. What's going to change now when you turn professional? No, your parents aren't going to be there anymore going, Dylan, get your ass in the gym, right? Your grandparents, everything, all those people are going to be supporting you and cheering you on. But what's going to change in you that's going to need to be more serious? Or are the training camps going to be the focal point? What's going to be different about pro versus amateur that's now going to be, how are you going to handle that?
A fresh start. Definitely a fresh start, right? And it's like a different like chapter of my life. It's the pro game. It's completely different now, right? Like pro boxing and amateur boxing are two different sports. My goal is to get a Canadian title. I'm turning 27 in April, and it's like okay, I'm at an age where it's like a good time. I don't want to like wait till I'm 30 and only get a couple of years out of
Yeah,
it,
and
right?
there are some age limits, like and even though there's not an age limit, they might have a master's class after a certain age, but competitively, there's a decline in performance usually around a certain age in a sport. And Aaron, you've been in the MMA world. Where did you feel your decline kicked in, or personally, or what you see amongst the MMA world? Where does it start to be like at that point you notice the game changes and the guys just aren't, they're not able to keep up with the younger guys? Where does that break point happen?
Yeah, even as soon as like mid 30s, like late 30s, 35, 38, somewhere in there, you definitely start to diminish in the energy levels and all that a little bit, just training, recovery, and all that. I know that we talked before the podcast, and Dylan's into MMA as well. We were talking about like getting pressured, like guys that were pressure fighters and that type of stuff, and like rolling with the punches. I watched this good fight the other night between Israel Adesanya and Sean Strickland, because I've been just kind of trying to catch up on Strickland and watch some of his fights, and then Duplexis, and like kind of gauge kind of where they both been at in their last couple of fights. And Adesanya's he's a freaking ninja, dude. He's really good. But Strickland was just, he had that pressure, like you were saying, man. He just kept coming at him, kept coming forward. Really messed Adesanya's game up. So I just wanted to kind of get a feel for like, well, have you followed both of those guys at all?
Yeah,
Duplexis and
I
Strickland?
like that's a fight I'm really excited for. It's almost a 50-50 shot because they're kind of like guys that were like, okay, they were like the lower, lesser guys and all that, but then all of a sudden they come with like career-changing performances, and it's like all of a sudden, and like the thing with Strickland, if Eddie Atlas is right, you get 20% better when you become champion. And the thing with Strickland too is that like he's a real guy, and he just kind of says stuff of how he is, but he doesn't really fight with much emotion. DDP brought the emotion out of him when he talked about his dad.
Hmm.
And you might see a different Sean Strickland. Whether that stuff and all that was staged at the Covington fight, whatever, when he jumped over, whatever, these guys don't like each other. And I
Right.
think it's going to be a fun week to go down. I want to go down at least see the press conference or something. Like that's
Yeah,
going to
you're
be a
not you're
pretty.
not far from the fight, right? Didn't you say like you're a few hours away or something?
And I can hop on the GOAT train and I can be in downtown Toronto in like 45 minutes. I think I am going to go with Strickland for that one.
What
We've
do you
heard it
think,
said so many
Coach?
times, styles make fights, right? Styles make fights.
Okay.
And then Dylan, your whole podcast with us today has talked about mindset, water cuts, preparations, things that were going on outside the octagon or the ring before they get there. We never know what Strickland or what Duplessis is going to show up that night either. We have no idea what's going on in their life. Well, let's go back real quick to Strickland and Adesanya. Coach Aaron, you were watching that too, and you saw how Sean Strickland really used that shoulder roll Mayweather style. It was
Yeah.
something you don't normally see in MMA, to use such a strict boxing style.
I was impressed the way he used it. Like
Yeah.
you don't see that.
It's been amazing getting to talk about all this boxing and all this journey, nutrition, hydration, sleep, the whole works. It all parallels back to fitness and health. And you're going with Sean Strickland on this fight, which Coach Aaron was
That that
asking
might
about
that
that.
I'll send you a text. That might change coming up. I'm gonna do my research a bit too. I'll let you know if I change my thoughts. But right now I'm gonna have to. I would probably say that the belt will stay. They
Coach
got
Aaron, before we go today, we got to ask you, Coach, what do you think? Is it going to be Strickland or is it going to be Dracus Duplessis?
Tough freaking call, brother. Duplexis is strong, dude. He's aggressive. He's got great grappling and chokes and stuff, and he brings it. So it'll be an interesting matchup because, like I saw Strickland in his last fight against Adesanya, just comes forward too. So they're going to clash. I think we're not going to have this dancing around shit anymore. These guys are
Yeah.
going to go at it, dude. So there's gonna be a winner and a loser on this one. I think someone's going to get tapped out. I'm going to go, I'm like 50-50. I'm just going to go with Strickland just because I want to see him challenged in the ground game too, and I think Duplexis can be the man to do that. Yeah, it's gonna
Yeah,
be a good one.
I
Hey,
like that.
and Dylan, it's been a pleasure speaking with you, brother. You're an absolute
Yeah, nice
freaking
meeting you.
yeah, you're an absolute champ, dude. And it's going to be a great transition, like you said, like a brand new start doing a pro career. So good luck to you, brother. You're going to crush it.
Thank you very much. Thank you for
Hey,
having me, guys.
it's been a pleasure. And we always ask the final question of the day for the guests
I
is
know.
just when you're giving advice to any man listening to the podcast, what are three things you think make up the ultimate man? And even if you can only come up with one, that's cool. But what's the main thing or the top three things that make up the ultimate man? Or what should a guy be working on to better themselves and become the ultimate man?
Follow your goals. Like for me, like I had so much doubt when I was on the ships, man, that I wasn't gonna be able to do what I want. And I kept to my mindset that it's like I wanted to do this. I'm gonna find a way eventually to do it. And like even though I feel like I don't know, I gained a lot of life experience when I was on the boats, and it's like 5 years of my life that like I'm really thankful for. But like it's also 5 years of my life that I didn't think I'd get to be able to like kind of like pursue, do what I want and stuff like that. But I like kept like a mindset that like I wanted to make this work and stuff like that. And like trust me, you know my story, and there's a lot that we haven't talked about today and stuff like that. But like to be where I am at now compared to a few years ago, it's like wow, like and that's I think too, like it came with like a lot of help with the people I have surrounded around me, but it's also the mindset that like even like you know how many times I wanted to just call it quits, like okay, this got canceled, this got canceled, this got canceled. I'm like, man, is this worth it anymore? But it's like the mindset to like, okay, my mindset's like I got like a good mindset with it and
So
feel like
follow your goals, keep a great mindset.
and healthy diet. let's uh let's get consistent with that. Like use a healthy lifestyle, healthy diet and stuff like that. I'd say
Get
that like
get those
really helps
electrolytes in there, bro. Start those electrolytes, man.
for sure.
On that note, I'm going to raise a toast to the Ultimate Man podcast, to the guys on the show today, to Dylan, our champion out there who's turning pro. We're going to follow your journey, brother, and we are
Yeah.
going to be supporting and cheering you on, just like from the bottom of our heart, man. We wish you all the best. And this has been a blast, Coach Aaron. Always great to jam with you on the Ultimate Man podcast as well. And we look forward to more main events. But so for this month, I'm going to have to go and make a prediction as well on that UFC because I didn't throw mine in there. But because you guys both went with the Strickland, I'm going to
Nah,
shift
you're
to
going
the other
DDT.
side. I'm going to take Duplessis on this one and we'll see what happens. Do as we always say, subscribe to this channel, join our forum, and become the best version of yourself, the ultimate man. All right, boys, we'll bring it in. Let's go. Hey, if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate it. It helps the algorithm and it helps us grow our channel so we can bring you more great episodes and some really great guests for the future.